Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Amps and the XFX3. I am going to be your host Lucas, and today we are looking at a very filthy, dirty amp, the Friedman Dirty Shirley. Guys, if this is your first time here, make sure you are subscribed. I do lots of cool things here. I go over all the amps in the XFX3, we go over the drives, I do amp sim reviews, gear reviews, do tons of cool stuff. I don't want you to miss any of it. But today we're going to be looking at the Friedman Dirty Shirley. IR-wise, you're going to be using the GGD Zilla Oversized 412 with a UK V30 with an SM57 mic. And we have two different Dirty Shirleys we're going to be looking at. Number one is the current version of the original amp. Two is an earlier version of the original amp with some different component values, and it's a little less aggressive than the regular model. I dialed both of them in a little bit different, so I'll show you that in a second. Some things I really kind of wanted to hit home here is that, as Cliff says right here, you have to lower the negative feedback. Well, you don't have to, but it's an option because Friedman's designs are a bit odd in the way that he takes the feedback off the speaker jack rather than off the transformer tap. Basically what that means is that you can mess with the mids in there. When I dialed it in, I cut a bunch of bass because even in the output I cut a little bit of mids in here, but this bass is very bassy. This amp's very bassy. So it has lots of good chunk in it, and this amp is based off of a JMT 45, but it's a little bit different. It's not as bright and has a master volume on it. All the information I'm going to be giving you is going to come from EX Amp Guide, so I will put that in the description down below. So when I was dialing it in, I treated it kind of like a Marshall and or a Plexi, because that's what a lot of Friedmans are based on. They have like a Marshall heritage, I guess you could say. So I dropped the bass all the way down because there's plenty of bass. I put the treble all the way up, put the presence up, and put a little bit of tiny mids in there. The thing that I find makes this amp so great is actually the negative feedback control. Because like what Cliff was saying is if you lower the negative feedback, it clears up the lower mids. But for some reason, like with this setup and with this guitar, by the way, I'm using the Tom Anderson Cobra S with an HC, one in the neck, HC3 in the bridge. I just love the way it sounds. It just sounds so thick and so mean. Now, this is a default on the negative for the negative feedback. I messed with it, but for number one, I ended up going back to the standard one. Let me play a little bit, and I'll mess with it, and I'll let you see what it does. So as you can see, when you push the negative feedback, you get more lower mids and you get a little bit more bass. And like I said, I find this is what makes the amp cool. I tried lowering the negative feedback, but I didn't like how thin it kind of made it sound. So for number one, which let me just label this because I'm going to end up forgetting it, or I'm end up going to saying it wrong. So current version of the original amp. Current version of the original amp. There we go. Alright, sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, this is how I set it up. I just have the drive like right up at 5. A nice good little crunch for it. Didn't mess with nothing ideal. Nothing, well, preamp. We just got out of that section. The speaker drive, I actually messed with this. I wanted it to compress a little bit because I find that it was a little, the bass was a little flubby and I wanted it a little tighter. So I'll put the speaker drive at 2 and I put the speaker compensation up right at 3. It just makes it really tight. Watch, I'll completely take it off and I'll put it back, let you hear. If I didn't just give it a little bit touch to tighten things up. I did not mess with anything in input EQ. speaker, I did tighten it up a little bit. I think it was like at 104, so I lowered it down to 94. Nothing in dynamics, and I just scooped a little bit of mid out of it, because a lot of Friedmans, that's kind of their thing. They have like loads of mids. And then let me turn this on and off and let you hear what it sounds like. I didn't really have to scoop a lot. Just, I put some back. I constantly fight with the mids when I'm dialing in amps, trying to get them perfected, because, when I dial stuff in, I think about it in a mix. I try to dial it in so that way I don't really have to EQ very much whenever I get to the mixing part of things. That's really it when it comes into dialing. Number 1, Dirty Shirley, the current amp. I'm going to cycle through my different pickup positions. So everything you heard was on the bridge. We're going to go to split coil. We're going to go to a parallel of the bridge and neck, and then we'll go to another split coil, and then we'll go to the neck. I'll cycle through them for you. I really like this amp, guys. I don't know if I've hinted at that, but I really like it. I don't know why. It just sounds so thick and just kind of like out there. I don't know. I like it a lot. It's like one of my newer favorite amps. I say newer favorite amp. It's one of my new favorite amps that I've recently found. I don't know. It just comes alive with this guitar. So this is the Dirty Shirley number 2, which, as I alluded to before, is an earlier version of the original amp with some different component values. A little more aggressive than the regular model, which is very interesting because I dialed this one in less aggressive than I dialed in the first amp. Because by comparison here, the volume is lower on this one. It's higher on this one. Presence isn't as high. The bass mid and treble kind of similar. I just have a little bit more mids in there, and I have it lower input drive wise. And I kind of get sort of like a light breakup clean tone with this one, and I'm gonna start on the bridge. That's why I cycled my pickups in the last one. I started on the bridge. IR is the same, just to show you there. I actually did not mess with any of the EQ in here, and I did mess with the negative feedback on here. I put it at 3. So let me play for you. So there, we just ended on the neck pickup. I hope you get to see that. I tried to get that in there. Bottom of my guitar is a little cut off by the camera. But I like the 2. I like to not have it as aggressive because I find it has like a really good clean sound. And actually, on here in the bottom in the comments, someone says that it has like a really good clean sound on it, which on the real amp itself, and which I'm inclined to agree, because I really like how it cleans up here, and I'm not really pushing it all that hard. Let me lower this down a little bit. I'll push this one harder so you can see what it sounds like. Before we do that though, I want to mess with the negative feedback in here, so I'll put it back at the default setting, play a little bit, then I'll lower it. So as you can see, when you lower it down, it cleans up a little bit of the mids, and it saved me from actually even having to mess with the EQ. So let's push the drive a little bit. Let's push it up to right here, and then I'll push it up and let you hear what that sounds like. Very, very bassy, wouldn't you agree? I find that the older version excels when you stick it right about there. Something I forgot to kind of go over with you guys on here is I want to push the amp for you and let you hear what it sounds like. I'm using a boost on here. I'm just using the Faz boost, actually. So the Faz boost is really, really transparent. It's Fractal's own boost. It's not like a tube screamer per se. It doesn't really cut a whole lot of the low end. It gives you a little bit of mid bump in there. I mean, this amp really doesn't need it, but I just kind of like what it does. So let me play it with you. Let me play it so you can hear what it sounds like. That's with the boost on and off there. Now let me lower this a little bit, and I'll mess with the drive so you can hear how that sounds. When you really crank it up, man, the distortion's really, really smooth. So I find that number 1 is a little more smoother than what number 2 is. I find 2's a little bit more wild. Just for consistency's sake, I'm gonna literally put the same drive. I think I had like around 7. Wait, let me turn it on. Let me experiment with this. Yeah, their characteristics are very, 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 very different. I just find this one, I keep saying it excels at a lower gain and being more like more held back, I find. And I find that the current one excels when you put it at 5 and like you jam on it. So guys, I know this video ran a little bit long. Thank you so much for watching if you're still here. This is about going to wrap things up for the Dirty Shirley. I think this amp is fantastic. It's really cool if you want something that's like not super high gain, but not super low gain, kind of like right in the middle for, you know, like some hard rock kind of stuff. And it can kind of do stuff a little held back to if you use the Dirty Shirley. Number two, it's very versatile. You can even get a pretty decent clean sound. You can get a really good lead sound. I know I didn't put any reverb or delay, but I mean, if you slap that on there, it would sound absolutely great. Guys, if you thought this video was cool, leave me a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to have to be out. Peace.